Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast from the Light Review. And today I'm happy to welcome Nigel Sylvester, Technical Director at ERCO UK. And we're going to talk, Nigel, about this new all singing, all dancing, fantastic modular light structure called Invia 48v. And I think it's always great fun to have something that's long and linear on a webcam. And yeah, so I don't think we're going to show anything live because we probably couldn't get it in the room. But
No.
nevertheless, what's it about? What's it about? Why have we got this new thing, and why did we need it?
Okay. Uh, Probably the main reason is this. ERCO historically has been known to have a number of structural products in its range, going way back. I mean, I'm talking about the late 80s through to the 90s. And what happened was we had we had a lot of product which was structurally built around extrusions,
Yeah,
aluminium extrusions, but with unique shapes. So in the old days, I call it the old days, we were very successful with a product called Avalon, which was an oval aluminium extrusion, which
I
had
remember.
numerous capabilities and was taken very, very well by the market at the time. But like fashion, I suppose you can compare it to fashion in general. They have a time span where they are in, let's just call it in the in the like list, and maybe tastes change over time, and then suddenly they fall off as being like the product that people will carry on wanting to use, and they want to have a different thing for different times. And what happened was we lost these products, or we took them out of the market for in terms of us having them as a product to sell, because they'd done their course.
Sure.
But ultimately, we then had to, as you know, as a company, we try and pride ourselves on innovating as much as we can. And what we didn't want to do is just bring something to market which everybody else had already done or everybody else was already doing. And it took some time. To be honest, we had a lull in a structural product from our range for probably about, I'd probably say about maybe 10 years, something new and additional to what ERC had been known to produce as structural products. We had three circuit track and a product called High Track,
Yeah.
which was a development on the three circuit track, but it was literally H section track. The bottom section of the H was track, and the top section was something we could put things in. So you could
Sure.
put some uplighting or whatever it be. Now, the thing with that track, it was very, very good because it was structurally even stronger than three circuit track. So you could have longer spans with less suspensions.
Right.
So the actual, for an architect, it was a nicer thing to look at, you could argue, because there was less suspensions visible. So it looked like it was more of a floating product than just three circuit track. But there were limitations to it. But what's happened with the advent of LED um, is that it's taken us away from the analog side of things, where we would have had fluorescent uplight in the high track and everything else, to now you're talking about high powered LEDs or mid power LEDs, which are typically out there in most product offerings from most companies, where you've got a linear diffuser or something like that, which creates now these architectural lines of light as a feature, which has now become commonplace in the industry in terms of offerings to different types of installation. It's quite common to see linear lines of light in the ceiling now doing a lighting task. But again, I keep using the word trying to innovate. We sometimes take quite a while to bring something to market because we want it to be something that has a little difference. Let's just call it that, and maybe ticks a number of boxes in terms of the way it performs. And as you know, again, strong point in our range is wall washing. strong point in our range is optical control. And all these things have been looked at as a way of developing this product we now call Invia.
Okay.
Now, that's what we are. We are now bringing a product which, in some ways, takes some of the linear LED products that are out in market, creating lines of light. It takes that into consideration, but we're now talking about a product which actually has true optical performance in it. And when you look at it, although it looks linear, if you look closely at it, it's actually made up of a number of effectively LED downlights arranged in a line, which are joined. And so what you see is effectively like lenses joined together in a linear format. But those lenses are, designed in a way to produce a type of distribution.
Yeah. Can I ask the 48 volt thing? I mean, there have been proponents for 48 volt or extra low voltage systems really for quite a few years. And clearly the LED taking over all lighting tasks has strengthened that. You've actually gone with a 48 volt system. Are we seeing then a new approach from this is really not a lighting question, this is an electrical question. Are we seeing a different approach then from the electrical designers in terms of a 48 volt universe living alongside a 240 volt universe? Or are they still thinking it's all 240 volt, there's a 240 volt to 48 volt transformer, crack on, because we've always been doing that for the last 40 years?
Yeah. The 48, I mean, as you say, the system is a 48 volt system. It is effectively based on the actual heart of the system is actually Dali. If I'm to really break it down simply, the system is 48 volt with four internal conductors within the track. But what it's doing is that the luminaires that fit into it and all the rest of it, they're all, whereas some people use things like magnetism to actually just have the luminaires that just literally you magnetize, you just push them up into the track, and they're, by magnetization, they're in there and they're making their contacts with various supply lines, whether it be 48 volt or Dali instruction. What we've done is we've followed the same sort of principle, but the way the fittings fit in are not through magnets. It's much more through a more secure fix. So literally, it's a mechanical fix, but it's without tools.
Okay, so it's a much more conventional sort of track adapter kind of fix.
Yeah,
it's a push up and turn, or however you're doing it.
Well, it's just push up. It's literally that. You just push it in and it's in, and literally it will make its contact automatically with Dali and 48 volt power supply, a supply line. Okay. And then the luminaire is running. It's simple as that.
Now, does that mean that that means you've now got, you've probably had them already. Sorry if I'm showing my ignorance here. So you've now got a range of 48 volt projectors as well.
Yep.
And so I'm guessing that there might be other LED linear fixtures in the range that might also be 48 volt. Yeah. So does that mean that Invia can be used with a more flexible design approach, that you might, if you've got, I can't imagine, you've got a high ceiling and it's all Invia, and then you've got the underside of a mezzanine and you want to put some projectors or some stuff in, and that can be 48 volt as well, and that all of that can be wrapped into the Dali universe?
Yes, pretty much. I mean, what it is, obviously, depending on the type of installation, the luminaires that go on to this Invia system are there is a size that you stop at, if you can argue, if I can use the term, because when you want to get to very high powered spotlighting or something like that, I mean, ultimately, we have to go back to the, generally speaking, you're talking about 240-volt
Okay.
products again.
Yeah.
However, the performance of the spotlights that we can provide to go onto Invia are still extremely powerful and effective for such low wattage.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say. I mean, so what's the maximum? I mean, it's difficult to talk wattages these days because I can't get my head around what is and what isn't a powerful LED. But in terms of a projector with a wattage rating, what's the top rating of a spotlight or of a wall
a
watch?
spotlight that goes onto Invia was probably going to be, you're looking at something that's probably going to be in the region of about 16, maybe 16 watts,
Oh,
something like that.
okay.
Yeah. But what it does, I mean, again, it goes back to the age-old thing about what we do with our optics and everything else. We have a term that we call uh, lux per watt, lux per watt, not
Right.
lumens per watt.
Lux per
And the
watt.
reason
Yeah.
why we use
Yeah.
the term lux per watt is because it actually tells you a true performance of something that you are aiming that product at to find out the true illuminance on that product from a distance. And when you take that scenario into account, rather than just looking at lumens per watt, you can see that the actual efficiency of the fitting is extremely high in terms of real light output that you're getting on your object.
Yeah. Now
So,
that must have given you some. Well, that must be giving you some degree of headache because you're the only guys who are doing that.
yeah, because what it is, it's as you well know, it's very easy to just constantly keep talking about lumens per watt,
Yeah,
and generally people will use that as a term of reference, and then people can sort of make up their mind and say, well, okay, if that product's providing this certain amount of lumens per watt, we can understand it to do this.
yeah.
But what we're saying is we're trying to take people away from purely looking at lumens per watt and actually looking at actually true delivered performance by
Okay.
seeing the illuminance of that, what the illuminance can be provided by that product at a distance. And when you look at the illuminance that we can get from our products on an object, it it's baffling to people in
Yeah.
terms of,
So tell me, our looks. That is that being measured at a meter again? Is that when your published data? That's
yeah, well, it's measured more typically at throw distances that you would be looking to use in your everyday
oh,
life. So
okay.
so for example, if you were, oh, I don't know, say you were illuminating a piece of artwork on the wall, and it was mounted that, and the offset of the artwork from your from your spotlight is say it's 2 meters or 3 meters. The illuminance you're getting on that artwork at that distance for the wattage of the spotlight that we are offering will be surprisingly powerful for what the watts say.
Okay.
But if you look at lumens per watt as a value, you might get confused about what we're trying to achieve, what we can achieve. And it's just the way we use our optics to deliver light now. And it's
Right.
very, very efficient. And it's a bigger story than just lumens per watt story.
Okay.
That's all I would say
Well,
on that one.
talking about a bigger story, one of the major changes, and we've talked about this before, is the way that BSEN 12464 has come
Mhm.
along and has changed the landscape for the way that we are providing illuminance into the workspace.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and what you've described there, to me, works in favour of a new approach where a lot of people are going, how can this possibly work? Because this is only going to cost more money, more energy, because we are now being asked to put more light onto a working space,
Hmm.
and we're going to be losing an awful lot of money because sorry, we're going to be losing an awful lot of energy because that some of that is going to go into the wrong places because of the kind of equipment we're specifying.
Right. Right
But if
on.
we've got this kind of equipment, as you say,
Yeah.
it's almost again this sounds familiar. I'm sure I've said this to you before. It's like
Yeah,
taking a picture and laying it flat and then lighting it and calling it a desk.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
Um, what I
how
was going to
how?
say,
Go on.
yeah,
Sorry.
okay. No, so what I was going to say to elaborate on is this is why when we have conversations with consultants, clients, at the end of the day, we have to we try our best to try and give a bigger picture explanation of what a product really does, and not just look at it in basic terms of
Okay.
lumens per watt. There are so many other factors that actually end up giving a product a performance that until they understand all the other factors, they can't really, it's very difficult to make a really true judgment on what the right call is in your selection process. But what we can show you is that by understanding a little bit about what we're trying to, what our products can do, you can actually reduce the number of luminaires that you're using in spaces because you're making full use of the performance characteristics of the product that we're offering. And
Okay.
by that, you can use less luminaires, which means less installation costs because you don't have to install so many. All the other things that go with less luminaires then just actually benefits in the long term.
So
But yeah,
are we begging specifiers to get involved in proper system design rather than
yeah,
chasing a tick box Part L exercise?
absolutely. And that's
Good,
and
good,
that's what
good.
we and I'll be honest with you, it's what we every time someone comes to talk to us about anything in particular, that's what we're trying to get them to understand more and more. There is I get why the tick box situation exists. I totally get it, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't, from my point of view, it doesn't provide that final high quality result because you're not looking at all the other parameters that make the final installation either something special or something run of the mill, if I can
Okay.
use that term.
I
Yeah.
I'm hearing some scary stories about sort of Cat A fit outs that are shifting over to track and spots,
Hmm.
presumably in response to 12, 12464. Um,
Yeah.
and I wonder if we are potentially entering an area of doing another disservice to the workspace user, to the workspace manager, that having
Yeah.
shifted away from 600 by 600 panels to something which is more efficient, we're actually giving
Yeah.
them something which it appears to be flexible, but it's just the wrong kit because at the end of the day, it's a track and a spot. It's not a
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
And what you have
Yeah.
here is, and there is that thing again. It's system design that we have to keep talking about, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when, I mean, we digress a little bit because obviously it's about I suppose the whole scope of this conversation is about the new product Invia from our range.
Yeah.
But this Invia product is, it's a, it's interesting on a number of fronts because what it is, it's a product that has the ability to meet with the UGR ratings like below 19. It works on that front. It is designed also to work with atriums, so it's got the ability to light extremely well from very high up and provide fantastic illuminance levels at ground level. It's got other factors in it which are based on the system, on the product can be specified to have what's known as a diffuse light, purposefully diffuse to enhance um, uh, architecture. So if you need to just get a more diffuse source, but not an overpowering source, to actually enhance the elements of architecture, again, this is where the Invia comes into its own. It's quite, as you would expect from ERCO, it's quite an engineered product, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Surprise us, Nigel.
well, there you go, right? So there's no surprises there. It's a very engineered product, but It's based on two profiles. One is a downlight profile, downlight extrusion, and the other one is a wall wash extrusion, which is again, they're both. I know I work for ERCO, but they are quite exceptional in the way they work and the way they look. Simple as
Okay.
that.
Now, am I right in thinking that you've kitted out Dover Street to show all this in its full glory?
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Okay.
if you ever have a chance yourself, when you're next down, well, when we last spoke, we had a very nice, let's just call it interview together. You came to the showroom,
I
and
did.
I was showing you a number of things. But since you were there, that showroom situation has changed completely.
Well,
Um,
hey, don't worry, I'll be round. We put
yeah,
the coffee on,
I
and
bet you will.
I'll be there. But
I
more
bet-
to the point,
Yeah,
this is a kind of this has to be a kind of a show me system, doesn't it? That if
yeah,
okay, you can have people go, it's Erco, I trust it, that's not a problem. But for an awful lot of
absolutely.
people, and possibly for an awful lot of end users, the
Yeah,
ability to nip down to Mayfair, pop into Dover Street, and say, oh, now I get it. Now I
yeah,
see what it is that we're trying to do, and now I understand why it ain't about a light fitting, it's about the whole thing.
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely. There's
okay.
only so much you can say with words. I mean, it's the visual. I remember when you came to see us last time, we were talking about the Geely, and
Yeah,
we were using that as a means of showing you again, the future thinking about how offices are lit with a track system, but with products that are on the track, which you can't even tell
yeah,
that they're on, but the
yes.
space is beautifully lit. You saw that for yourself, and that is one of those things words can't explain. You have to be there to see it, and yeah,
It's what good design integration is going to be about, isn't it?
absolutely,
Just
absolutely,
okay, okay.
absolutely.
Nigel, I'm just keeping an eye on the time here.
Oh, fine.
I said we try and keep it to 20 minutes, and we've just gone over that. So
Happy with this.
when you're having fun, eh?
Yeah,
So
indeed, indeed.
thanks ever so much for your time.
No
Um,
problem.
so to everyone out there, the Invia is a system to see. It is at Dover Street. It is at at Dover Street in London W1. And if you get in touch with ERCO, no doubt appointments can be made for you to go and have a look at
Yeah,
it. Well
absolutely.
worth the exercise. This is I'm now going to I'm now going to put a time limit on the value of this comment, and it will be at Light 23 in Islington in November. But knowing how long these things last, but that's November 2023. So if you're watching this in 2024, you missed it, and you're going to have to just speed up on the next one. But Dover Street will always be there. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time. Nigel, thank you very much for your time. And I'll see you in Islington, and I'll see everybody else out there at some point. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.